And friends, this is your pal Captain Ted over in Honolulu. It's the last day of May 2025, and have a small tribute to pay in remembrance of this day. 84 years ago was the conclusion, the end of the Battle of Crete against the Nazi invasion of May 1941, which my mother and her sister had to live through as they were young girls there living with their father, Colonel Theodore Stratoudaki, who I'm named after. But Colonel Stratoudaki was in his command post in Hanya on the morning of May 20th, or sometime thereabouts, when a Stuka dive bomber zeroed in from the air and unloosed a bomb right in the middle of their headquarters, killing everyone and him. So he was taken out immediately during the battle, but he had spent his life as a soldier in uniform for Greece and had fought in the Balkan Wars, had a long history of bravery on the front. And his daughters loved him and cherished his memory. And they were, of course, devastated with his loss, but at the time they actually didn't really know exactly what was happening because they had been evacuated with all the women and children to the mountains of central Greece, away from the north coast where the parachute invasion was happening by the Germans. And they came, a fierce number of them, ultimately almost 10,000 German parachutists, commandos, dropped into Crete during the week of fighting between May 20th and the 27th. And by the 27th, the armies of Australia, England, and Greece had been routed starting on the 23rd of May by the landing of German troops in the airfields at Melim on the north coast of Crete, with bringing heavy artillery and then reinforcements. So the General Freiberg, who was commander of the troops there, the Allied troops there from New Zealand, Australia, had been evacuated from Athens down to Greece. So this was the last hold of the Greeks for freedom against the German invasion. They lost, and the island was given up for loss by the 27th of May, the battle. And so the troops were evacuated, as many as could be, down to the south coast of Crete and taken off by warships, British ships, to Egypt. But many were left behind and wounded, and then there was a great Greek resistance guerrilla force left behind also with them. And they never surrendered, actually never surrendered the island. They lost the battle, but they never did give in. And there was a great resistance movement going on until the end of the war in 1945, which we just observed, May 8th. We observed the 80th anniversary of the end of the war in Europe. As for my mother and her sister, their story only began on May 20th, there with the death of their father. They were in the mountains in the caves in the center of Crete, being hidden there, and there were snakes in the caves. This was being springtime, early spring, and there was also very little food and water. But as they watched the parachutes coming down from their hiding place, my mom, who was an eyewitness, told me that they were exclaiming, the umbrellas, look at the umbrellas coming from the sky. They didn't know what a parachute was. They had never seen one. But there was a great number of Greek civilians that rallied and came to the defense of their island with any means or weapon they could get, a pitchfork, axe, clubs, knives. Men, women, and priests actually fought the landing German troops as they came down from their parachute. Some were literally shot or killed while they were hanging from trees where they had been snared there. And because of this, the Greek civilians suffered a great retribution after the surrender. The surrender came on June 30th. June 1st, right at the end of May and the beginning of June. And the Germans took over the island, occupied the island then for the next 4 years with a reign of terror. And my mom and her sister were rescued by an uncle from the Marrakis family. They were part of the Stratoudaki family. And the uncle took them to his village, and they lived there, survived there, but mostly had to hide from the German occupation troops because they were known children of Greek officers, and they were looked at as combatants or enemy combatants, and most likely would have been imprisoned or executed if they were caught. So at their peril, they did eventually escape to Athens on a boat filled with carob melons, karoupi, my mother called them. And they were hidden on there with some friends. That took a 7-day voyage to Athens, she and her sister, to find their mother, who was living in Athens when the war broke out. The mother and father had divorced a few years before the war started, which was rare in Greece, but they did go, they searched, they found their mother, and my mom told me how she will always remember the day when these two very haggard, thin, underfed little girls showed up at their mother's door, and she opened to find her daughters there. So they survived in Athens, survived the war, the Nazi occupation, and until the liberation by the English army, and then, of course, the end of the war happened and was declared May 8th, 1945. Well, then, I said, according to my mom's oral history, was that they had to endure the occupation not only of the Germans, but then the communist Greek Civil War broke out. So I made this little video, and I'd like to play this for a few minutes in tribute to my mom and the brave people of Crete. And it's a song that actually I had composed, and a friend of mine, Leonard Jones, did it in music, and I did it in Greek. So it has English subtitles, and it's called Freedom or Death. Please enjoy this brief song here.
Υπεζιέμι ξεχνάς και φίλους παλιούς πάντοτε να τιμάς. Πλήρωσε πίσω μ' αγάπης τιμή. Χάρισε μου λευτεριά. Η αιώνια ζωή είναι τόσο κοντά. Μες στην αγκαλιά της είναι δροσερά. Δεν θα μας σώσει άλλος κανείς. Παλικάρια μόνο εμείς. Ελευθερία ή θάνατος μου, ελευθερία ή θάνατο ένα μου. Να πομένει ελευθερία. ελευθερία ή θάνατο, δώσ' μου ελευθερία ή θάνατο ένα μου, να απομένει ελευθερία ή θάνατος. Η σωτηρία από κάπου θα'ρθεί, προσευχή σου η αμαρτία μας να φερθεί. Ψέματα λένε, μην τους ακούς, κράτα γερά την αλήθεια του. Τόσες οι ζωές που αφαιρεθήκαν, σταυροί στα λιβάδια, ήρωες που χαθήκαν, πατέρες και είπαν λόγια στερνά, χάρισε μου ελευθεριά. Ελευθερία ή θάνατο, δώσ' μου ελευθερία ή θάνατο ένα μου, να απομένει ελευθερία. Ελευθερία ή θάνατο, δώσ' μου ελευθερία ή θάνατο ένα μου, να απομένει ελευθερία.
So this is what happened. This is how life ended for my grandfather during this war, during this battle. And Crete has survived, as they have survived many hundreds and thousands of years, invasions by the Turks, the Venetians, the Romans. They have survived and are thriving. It's a very popular tourist destination. So the Greeks fought great resistance there, as it said. Winston Churchill left a great tribute saying that up until now, he said, I believe that the Greeks fought like heroes, but he said now, I believe that heroes fight like Greeks. Because of the great resistance and the battle, that Hitler delayed the invasion of Russia, the Operation Barbarossa, and because of that delay, it led to quite a lot of his failure there in Russia and basically losing the war. So we owe them a great debt, and of course the great courage that they showed, and love for their country, love for freedom. And for God, and they are great Orthodox Christian supporters of the gospel to this day, where I got very much of my Christian background from. So I'd like to just say this special day is say thank you, Mom. My mom, Dr.Despina Stratoudaki White. She did live through the war and actually did meet my father, who was an American pilot, came to Greece after the war to start an airline, and she became the flight attendant with him. He was the captain, flying several trips to Australia, resettling Greek people in Australia, Melbourne, which has a very thriving Greek population to this day. So as the dad and mom got acquainted, they got married. They returned to America right at Christmas 1949, and my mom began her new life in America right in 1950 as that new century, half century was born. She went on to be a professor of history and Byzantine history, PhD, earned master's degree, and also wrote several books translating the early letters of Photius, the patriarch, Constantinople, early church father, into English out of Greek, original Greek, for the first time. But thanks for watching. Just ask you all to please remember the sacrifices not only of the Greeks, but all the brave people around the world have given us freedom in America to be Americans. And as we see this, the bloodshed going on and the great tragedy and loss of human life around the world, we will pray for peace, but we want moral peace. We want victory for freedom. We want the people that their death not be in vain, those fighting against oppression, fighting for freedom. So thanks again. We bless everybody. Thank you, and thank you for watching. From Hawaii, we say aloha.